My name is Liz. I'm going to be doing a multimodal analysis of The Outsiders. So as you know, The Outsiders is about Ponyboy Curtis and his kind of character development of who he is and how he identifies himself not as a greaser, not as a Soch, but somewhere in between. And he has his sort of adventure with his friend Johnny, who ends up passing away in the end, and he finds himself kind of coming to terms with everything that's happened and who he is as a person. So The Outsiders Resist the single story about class in Ponyboy's world. Ponyboy tells the audience many times how different he is to the gang, and the single story in The Outsiders is a conflict between the Socs and the Greasers. The Socs are, the rich snobs who get away with everything, and the Greasers are the rough and tough who constantly get into trouble. Ponyboy and Johnny aren't like either group. Ponyboy enjoys being alone and likes activities different from the gang, like reading and watching movies. And Johnny is like his family is not normal. His parents kind of abuse him a little bit, so he's more on the quiet side. So on my drawing, I have the main drawing is the drive-in, because it's where he meets Cherry and discovers that it's not just black and white. There is some gray medium area between the two societies. So the first image is the movie ticket, and the quote under it is, "And nobody in our gang digs movies and books the way I do." This is the first time that he kind of discovers that he's not discovers, but he realizes that he's not the same as everybody else. He already knows that he's different. So the next quote is on the actual movie screen at the top. It says, "Greasers are almost like hoods. We steal things and drive old souped up cars and hold up gas stations and have a gang fight once in a while." He kind of describes what a stereotypical greaser is, and from the beginning you know that he's not like them. So the next quote is the one next to the vehicle parked. It says, "In the country, I loved the country. I wanted to be out of towns and away from excitement. I only wanted to lie on my back under a tree and read a book or draw a picture and not worry about being jumped or carrying a blade or ending up married to some scatterbrained broad with no sense." He has a determined place where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be stuck in, his poverty greaser society. He wants to, go out there and do something with his life, but, in the end, not in the end, but he ends up getting distracted and losing sight of his goal. So the next one is, after Johnny has, killed that Soch who was, trying to kill Ponyboy, and they've run to the church. And it says, it's the one next to the church, it says, "Johnny looked at me quickly. I didn't mean nothing. I meant, well, Soda kind of looks like your mother did, but he acts exactly like your father. And Derry's a spitting image of your father, but he ain't wild and laughing all the time like he was. He acts like your mother, and you don't act like either one." I mean, it's another situation where, somebody is noticing that Ponyboy is not anything like a typical greaser. He doesn't, hold up gas stations and steal, and so it's just another way of showing that his character development is not the typical greaser. So the next one is the letter written to Ponyboy, but from Johnny after he passes away. The letter in the back of the book that he gave him. It says, "Ponyboy, I asked the nurse to give you this book so you could finish it. And don't be so bugged over being a greaser. You still have a lot of time to make yourself be what you want." Johnny understood the feeling of not being left out, but not fitting in correctly. Because Johnny was quiet. He was abused by his parents. His mom didn't really care, and he tried his best, but he knew towards the end he knew he was going to die, and he had come to terms with it. But he wanted to show that Ponyboy is, you know, uh, he's a human being. I mean, after you hear Cherry say that he that it's basically not black and white. Everybody has their own issues. So Johnny is basically telling Ponyboy, don't worry about who you are right now. You have so much time to just discover yourself. You're not a greaser, you're not a soch, you're just in between. So then the last quote is the one with the book. So I put the book in here because I knew it represented, him coming to terms with himself in the end. So the quote is, there should be some help. Someone should help them before it was too late. Someone should tell their side of the story, and maybe people would understand then and wouldn't be so quick to judge a boy by the amount of hair oil he wore. Ponyboy wants people to know his part of society, his family. He doesn't want people to just judge them from their background. So below the movie screen, I did a background of like a greenish gray, because in the beginning he talks about how Jerry and Soda Pop's eyes are a completely different color than his. So I wanted to put that in the background because this book is basically the journey and character development of Ponyboy. So I think one of the most challenging things that this project posed for me was trying to find specific moments in the book where, Ponyboy didn't stick to that single story of a greaser who came from a poor family, and it helped me to realize how people can change, and people are different all over. They don't have to stick to the status quo, and I think Ponyboy finally understands that towards the end. So I hope this was fascinating. Thank you for listening.